Hi, everybody.
Hi, welcome. So we've made our way through Nancy's 10 ingredients for change, and now we're going to talk about how we've used them. But first, remind everybody what the 10 ingredients are.
Oh, Casey, I love it. Every week it's a quiz for me. Even though I wrote the list, it's sort of like, does the woman remember what her list is? Okay. It is awareness and willingness and intentionality, really bringing it to the front. Self-education, understanding myself more in a compassionate way. We'll circle back to that. Skill building. Maybe I am not very good at saying no, and I can't just automatically jump in and say no. I have to cultivate that skill. Self-regard, which is that compassion, kindness toward myself, understanding, why I do what I do, understanding why I want to change it. Then the sort of action pieces are being with ourself in the moment. Like, okay, I've got this plan, I'm going to learn to not keep repeating myself. And here I am talking and I'm getting heated up with someone and I'm wanting to repeat myself. I'm like, that's the moment. I'm noticing it's the moment I need to change. And then number 8, that's the moment to intervene on my own behalf, to say, ooh, to myself, I've said this 10 times already. I think I'll stop now. And then the last 2 we covered last week are spirituality and letting go. Because even though change involves us learning how to do new things and understand ourselves better, it also usually involves letting go.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's funny, over the weekend, I was looking in some old journals, not on purpose, by mistake. I needed to find something to write in, and I opened up an old journal, and it was from 2012.
Yeah.
And some of the things I was writing about in 2012, now in 2021, I'm still working on. So when it comes to change, it's incremental, you know, and with one increment of change comes a whole new world, right? You step
Yes.
into a whole new reality. So I came to the realization that I'm always changing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always changing.
Good.
And I
We are.
always want to be changing.
Right.
Um, and it's funny, just before I jumped on this Zoom, I was on another Zoom with 2 women who work in the food saving and food pantry world that I'm in.
Yeah.
And one of the things we talked about is that how people are afraid to do things wrong, right?
Yeah.
Afraid to do things wrong. But the thing that we all had in common is that we don't have that fear. And that one of the things I have at the food pantry, I say to my volunteers frequently, when you're operating food pantry in a pandemic, you do things differently all the time. You're
Okay.
changing all the time because the rules are changing all the time. Safety measures changing all the time. Distribution changing all the time. And I always say to my volunteers, first, we're going to make a change, but first we're going to do it wrong.
Yes.
And I want
Yes.
everybody to be really okay with doing this imperfectly,
Yes.
because
That's
at the end
beautiful.
of the day, we're going to have a better idea. And I
Right.
think that's what I've realized about change is that it's a big circle, and you just keep going around, and maybe the circle gets tighter and tighter and tighter as you zoom in and zero in on the sweet spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how I would take that image about the circle, Casey, is if I thought about change, this is where I am and this is where I want to get to with whatever I've intentionally set up. To me, now I need 2 more hands, but is that circle, we go around, but it's always sort of, if we keep paying attention, working its way
Yes.
down to where I am headed. And it fits with, I'm going to do it one more time, everybody. It fits with what we hear in the programs, 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
Right.
Which is another compassionate way to approach change.
Right.
So Casey, I know we want to hear an example. I think you could tell us an example from you, but the ingredients of change, we just keep kicking up more and more of them. We inadvertently fell into patience the other couple of programs ago, and that's not on my list of 10. Courage is what you're talking about to me, or that's what I have in mind as you're talking about. We just have to plow in and know we're going to make a mistake. We just have to be, it is courage, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's also lack of ego. I'm not afraid to fail. In fact, I welcome failure, right? Because with every failure, I learn and learn and learn and learn. And that's the biggest thing I've had to share with my volunteers is don't be afraid. You're going to do it wrong.
That
You're
is so beautiful. So important.
Wrong is welcome here.
Yeah. As long
you do it wrong, you're going to say, I have a better idea.
Right. And knowing that we're working toward, back to my image, to the goal.
Yeah.
That is so compassionate. And it's also realistic. There's another word that hadn't come into the conversations, but it is realistic. I was having a conversation with my brother yesterday about a big thing we have to take care of. And Kacey, it wasn't until I ended the conversation and let it go that I realized, oh gosh, we were being unrealistic about the size. We need to start small and bravely, but it is a matter of being realistic.
Yes. And starting small is fabulous. With any project, starting small is fabulous. I want to tell you about two areas recently where I used my change magic. This is all since the pandemic. One area of change is I had to change my reaction to a difficult situation at work.
Okay.
Can't change the situation.
I get it.
Had to change myself.
Okay.
So the pattern had been difficult thing would happen at work. I would then spend the rest of the day telling everyone who would listen to me about the difficult thing and the difficult person and just kicking up the same dust and going over the same ground over and over again. When I became aware that this is no fun for anybody, that took like a couple decades. But when I become aware of it, I'm like, I'm going to change me.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? I'm going to change me. And when I look at your 10 ingredients, I know there's 2 that are my touchstones. Like there's 2 I could not do without, right? Of your 10 ingredients, my 2 main ingredients are intentionality.
Yes.
What do I want to accomplish?
Okay.
And self-regard.
Okay. Right.
With those 2 ingredients, I can make a delicious gourmet meal. So with this particular difficult situation, I had to put it right out front that I wanted to get through the day without any discord. So I made big posters like this size that said, just get through the day, in huge letters, just get through the day, and in small letters, calm and kind. That's our motto at the food pantry. Things get hectic. We say calm and kind, because as things speed up, we start to speed up. But we need, as the volunteers, we need to be in charge of the energy. So we're like, tone it down, calm, and kind. So just get through the day calm and kind. I plastered these everywhere, on the folder that I carry, in front of the microphone at the studio, over my desk. Just get through the day, calm and kind. So my intentionality has to be, I have to see it.
Right. Well, I think that's not unusual. I mean, I think otherwise it just slips out of our mind and we're falling to habit. We're just falling. That's where mindfulness folds in. We want to bring our awareness so that we don't slip into the habit, and the signs really help you to do that.
So then when I would take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, in that back step, I'd be like, it's okay. I got you. And if you need to complain today, complain. I'll give you 60 seconds. You can complain for 60 seconds, right?
Right. Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes, the difficult situation at work would just be so extraordinary. I'd be like, I have got to share this with somebody. This is quite a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until
Too full of it was brimming over.
brimming over. So those intentionality, putting what I want to accomplish where I can see it in a huge bumper sticker, and then being nice to myself, being nice to myself, being nice to myself, because I spent so much time wanting to achieve this goal of getting through the day in calm kindness, and not getting through, and beating myself up. And I'd lay in bed like, why is this still a thing? Right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
"Grr."
Right.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I took that piece away with self-regard. So
Yes.
that's
Mhm.
one example for me. And the other pandemic example, big change during this time, was diet and exercise.
Okay.
We locked ourselves in the house in March, April, May, June, July, August. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just sitting on that couch watching that TV. Um, and I lost my stamina, and
Yes.
I lost my muscle, and I lost like the ability to find it. Like I was like, usually when I have a health slide like that, I could get back on the horse. I couldn't find the horse or the barn. So, but again, I used intentionality, and there was this little voice in my head that just kept saying, keep working on it. Keep working on it,
Mhm.
because I knew I was failing. So I tried. This is another thing you might want to add to your ingredients. It's definitely part of mine. Try everything.
Okay.
Try everything.
Regroup.
When it came
Mhm.
to diet, I was eating a particular diet of like rice cakes and peanut butter, and I thought that was nutritious, but it turned out I was getting far too much carbs and sugar. So
Okay.
I just kept switching the food and switching the food and switching the food till I found what made me feel good food wise.
Yes. Yeah.
And then
Good.
I added exercise. If I could do exercise just 15 minutes every 2 weeks, right? And I'd say, oh, I can't, I can
Right.
barely get through this 15-minute exercise video. But that little voice in my head, I'm so grateful for, I don't know where you find that, just kept reassuring me, if you keep doing this, you're going to get to a place where you're okay. So again, I was trying everything, intentionality of knowing I needed to get back in shape, and just I kept coming back to it. I kept coming back, and
Yeah.
I'm in a pretty good place now. My strength is back.
Right.
I look forward to doing my exercise now.
Yeah.
But that change took many, many months, right?
So yeah, Casey. So there's one interest. There are a number of things I want to comment on, but working backwards, part of what you're describing, we haven't talked about this before, is that you had a healthy internal dialogue going on. Often when we fall off the rail, we get this unhelpful monologue going on. Like, what's wrong with you? Well, I just don't feel like getting up. Well, you always go this way. And, just sort of unhelpful, unsupportive stuff. But instead, you kept, it was almost, I had this image as you were talking about, like you had an internal coach
Yeah.
in there who was that's the dialogue that was going on within you. It's like, well, that didn't work. Okay, well, you're right, it didn't. So what could we figure out? Beautiful. I
Yeah.
think it's when we just let this negative monologue run away with us that we want to notice
Right.
that's what that notice. See, there's the notice, Kacey. There's the notice,
Mm-hmm.
and shift to that dialogue.
And I am a coach, and I work with women all the time, and I think that's why that's why I have that little voice. You know what I mean? It's my own, it's the echo of my own words. But you know what I want to say about change? It's worth it. It's hard, but it's worth it. It's just worth it. And even though, especially if anybody listening is thinking, I know this can never change, keep moving forward because it's possible and it's worth it.
It is worth it. And I want to re-highlight something you've said already. When someone listening may think it's not possible to change, the change we're talking about is within self, which you highlighted with your first example. I want to go back to the work one here in a minute. But it is, if our aim is external and trying to fix someone else, we want to redirect. The change we're talking about is how is within us. It may be the choices that we're making relative to other people, but still we're empowering. The worth it is the change that it creates for us. Yeah.
It's so great. It's so
Kacey,
great.
yeah, the question I had for you, going all the way back to where you began, the story about at work and something and work's so great for us to talk about because I know a lot of listeners are applying this to work settings where we aren't quite as autonomous or we don't feel like we have the power or whatever. Something in you became aware that you wanted to stop going around fussing about or talking about or complaining about or telling stories about. What brought that awareness up?
It was the sadness of coming to realize I was giving somebody else the power to steal my joy.
Right. And again, I'm going to dig one little step deeper because I think we're all trying to notice things within ourselves. Do you remember a moment or how you started being aware that that was what was happening?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Okay. Yeah, it was
like I
just
said,
the accumulation of it.
Accumulation. And it was that try everything thing because I've tried so many other things before.
That's great.
Yeah. But probably most of them were trying to change somebody else. But when I just focused on me and I just focused on what made me happy,
right,
I could let so much go that didn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you've got to protect your heart and soul, your joy.
Yes. Yes. And one of the words that I use for the changes I make for myself are often I'm protecting my serenity also. And in fact, it's in the writing I do. Changes, and I'm not going to get into my stories right now. We're going to stay with yours here today. But I realized that I just hated it when my serenity was disrupted. And I'm the one who had disrupted it.
Right. Why can't we hear your stories?
Why what?
Why can't we hear your stories today? Why is it just my stories?
Oh, well, part of it is because everybody, there's a snowstorm coming and there's 18 inches of snow coming to Kacey's house tonight. And I was going to bring that up. And so there's some urgency to do more snow preparation. So it depends. How are we with time, Kacey? Where are we at for the show?
We're about halfway through. I think it's perfect time to talk about your changes.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it. I mean, to the listeners, I'll chat a little bit more. You know, Kacey and I last week, after we said bye-bye to you guys, we talked some more. We want to be as practical as we can with these shows. And so that's going to wave on in the next bunch of shows. And then we realized that nothing helps teach better than examples. Not that we're perfect examples.
Sometimes a bad example can help.
Which is what you are telling us.
Yeah.
Right. So please don't think I'm saying we're examples of, we're just telling our stories. And as a program I love says, take what you like and leave the rest. So, we'll do that. Yeah, Kacey, the changes I've been making really do go all the way back to the 90s as well. I mean, I'll just put it in that context. I mean, I too have been doing my slow loops, I think one of the changes that in the 90s I became really aware of was my tendency in a conflictual discussion to keep repeating myself and to keep diving in a little bit further and a little bit further to either get my point across, to either get the other person to agree with me. Yeah, and it was like, I mean, it was obsessive. It could be obsessive. I could even walk away and then come back and add some more, because there's more to add and whatever.
And another thing.
And another thing, exactly. And, the thing, I mean, and I would particularly do it at home. And I can remember one of the times I started to become aware that I wanted to change that behavior was that I would catch myself just sort of marching back up the stairs or that other thing that I wanted to say. And and so I started to realize, oh, if I'm marching back up the stairs, I am really caught up in my own spin here, in my own effort to manage and control someone else and to get, as we said, to get my point across. Ironically, it's so tangled. It was also to try to finish the conversation so we weren't upset with each other.
Right. So I'm going to tell you one more thing about how you're wrong and I'm right, and then we're going to have a lovely evening. Yes. I've experienced this myself, Nancy. Yeah.
That's it in the package. And in the meanwhile, I just started to be aware that the energy I was stirring up, well, it wasn't, none of that was happening. We weren't agreeing and then having a lovely evening.
Right.
But I started realizing that it upset me and that my hot water heater was going, or my ability to think in a linear way was off. I mean, it could even derail me from other things I wanted to be doing for the day, or I could have been having a perfectly fine time.
Right.
And then I have allowed myself to get that. So my awareness and my willingness and my intention came in. I started doing self-understanding I do think that there were many dynamics about who I am playing in there, not just the wanting to control the other person's response, but it is and I want you to like me while I do this. It was that dynamic, as well. So learning new skills was important. I mean, and I write about them and I mentioned them in our last one, really learning how to, knowing when to stop me and then stopping. And I've joked every time I teach it, stop, know when to stop and stop. I write them in the book as 2 separate essays, Kacey, because I can know when to stop and still not stop.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And then you say, I'm doing this. I don't want to be doing this, but I'm walking up the stairs one more time.
Exactly. And so that's where I guess I started getting into this intervening on my own behalf. Who else is going to stop me from walking up the stairs? I mean, there is no one there to stop me but me. And sure, I've slowed all of that way down and really do care very much to try to be clear about my point using an I statement, not a you one, if not if at all possible. I think that's really important, is to state it from an I point of view, not you. And then really here comes the letting go. I mean, Kacey, it dings into the end of the ingredients. It's sort of like, if I've stated what I want to state, and I'm staying in touch with myself so that I'm wanting to keep my own peace and resume a nice day, or a nice enough day. I mean, every day ain't lovely, but a nice enough day, then I have to be ready to accept that person will believe what they believe. I will do what I can do, and then I believe it, and how to let it go. I mean, that's where it all came in.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That is beautiful. Um, that story could be told this way: awareness, awareness, awareness. Right?
Right. Right. And then intervening on my own behalf, then having a skill set within me to say, oh, here I am in the moment.
Yeah.
And let's see, I want to say something that I haven't completely finished thinking through. It has to do with how I'm helping people understand the ideas that I'm working with. I think that what you and I are working with in this show is super fundamental to any mental health or addiction treatment a person may be getting. Okay. In other words, these are skills that there are various ways addiction and trauma are worked with, anxiety and depression. I have no preference for them, what works. But below whatever approach people are using, I believe that we still have to have these fundamental self-awareness, self-regard in the moment, and realizing, oh, this is a connection with self that enables us to use whatever. If we have, 12-step program slogans, it's like, oh, this is the moment. But what you and I are talking about, I think, is a real foundation for any other therapy styles.
Right. I agree.
Mhm.
I agree. And it's a good foundation, and it's a wonderful clarifier to me
Okay.
because we are always changing, hopefully, right?
Yes, yes. No, we do. I mean, we respond, oh, I was going to do something today and it's snowing.
Mm.
I was going, and we change. I mean, in
Right.
those moments, we have to change. Yes.
And pivot.
I was going
Right.
to send somebody a note. I don't have their address. I have to regroup. Yeah. So even all of this stuff requires, here's the word I haven't thrown in yet. We've said regroup, but it also is being flexible.
Yeah.
There is, you're talking about resilience is the word common in our field these days. But whether we're regrouping, whether we're allowing that we're going to make a mistake, it's all about having some flexibility within us so that we can, change.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And I have
Hmm.
great compassion for the people who aren't flexible, who haven't found the way to open their scope. There's just they want to do it that particular way.
Right.
That's a terrible feeling.
Hmm.
It's to be married to a certain outcome or a situation. So,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
a relaxing, a relaxing into a more authentic way of being helps.
With what is really, yeah, really going on. I mean, I do find that it can really be an obstacle to forward movement for a number of people, whether it's family, friends, or people I work with, that it's sort of like still holding on to wishing it was how it had been,
Yeah,
and having difficulty seeing how it is in the present, and what that will again require of me.
right.
Kacey, I mean, if you had told me last February 1st that I would be working on a teletherapy platform, or that I would have a show and a podcast
Right,
with, someone, wonderful person, Kacey in New York, that's changes beyond anything
right.
that I could have imagined. Yeah.
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 Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
be open to it.
Be open to it.
Be
Yeah.
open to.
And keep these changes in mind. Whether it's you going to work every day, you still go to work probably with the same people and environment. So our change, we do have to keep working at it.
Yeah.
And I still do have that basic tendency, although it's way quieted down, to either over explain or overstate, and have I said, I don't know that I've said this to you. I had a really good friend back in the 90s. We worked at a college together and we did alcohol education programs. And I would start into something and he would say, wait. Is this the short version or the long version, Nancy? He was also in recovery. And I was like, it can be the short version. That would be good.
That would be good. That would be good. And it's true, you know, with change, it doesn't go from 100 to 0, right? It goes from 100. If 100 is uncomfortable, you know, you dial it back and dial it back and dial it back. And when I go into my difficult situation, I do it with 90% less dread. You know, there's still some uncomfortable bits, but
Because you know where the thermostat is now, Kacey.
yeah,
You
right.
you have the thermostat.
Yeah.
And by the way, everything you just described is just like losing weight, isn't it?
Yeah, it is incremental. And then, you know, you have to be happy with what you got. You're doing the best you can.
It's very incremental.
Yeah, very incremental. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we've done it for this week. We've given our examples of change, and we hope that it's helped you if you're trying to make a change. And we'll be here next week with more wonderful ideas.
Yeah, what we're going to do is jump back in, give them a quick overview of 4 areas of work. And then we're going to just probably do skills for a long time, skills that help us in these areas of work for what I call self-recovery.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. I'm going to go shovel.
Stay safe.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Kacey.